I am Claire Reed, and this is my voice. I am the woman who signed her name on a stack of papers in a bright office in downtown Chicago and became the owner of a small blue house on Maple Street. The agent slid the last form across the desk and said, "Congratulations," and I said, "Thank you," even though my hands shook. I had saved for years for the down payment. Every spare dollar, every small raise, the extra $15 from a Saturday shift, the $40 gift my Aunt Ellen tucked into a birthday card. When the wire cleared and the numbers on the screen turned into keys in my palm, I felt a silence inside me open like a window. It was August in the United States of America, hot and bright, and the city sounded like a brass band in the distance. The house is not large. It cost $286,000, which still looks like a mountain when I see it on paper. The porch leans a little to the left, the steps are painted a soft gray, and the front door is the color of a blueberry. There is a maple tree that gives the street its name. On my first night, the leaves moved like a slow wave, and the air smelled like rain on warm wood. I stood in the living room and said, "Hello," out loud. The way you talk to a stray cat, the way you talk to a place you hope will love you back. My brother, Daniel, carried in the last box and wiped his forehead with his forearm. "You did it, Claire," he said. My friend Maria came with a pie and $20 flowers from a corner stand. We ate the pie with forks from a moving box and leaned our elbows on a bare counter. It was not fancy. It was enough. I work at a public library not far from Lake Michigan, and most of my days are quiet and neat. I shelve books, I help a boy find a story about trains, I fix a printer jam with a laugh that is half prayer. The library pay is not big, but it is steady. I have learned to live by a simple ledger. $1,200 for the mortgage each month, $180 for gas and power, $72 for the internet, $60 for the bus pass. Some months I make a little extra by tutoring a girl named Hannah who wants to write true stories, and she pays me $50 in an envelope with a smiley face drawn on it. I keep old receipts in a shoebox and fold small bills into a jar marked house. I tell myself that every dollar is a seed, and one day the seeds will be trees. On my second evening in the house, I noticed a loose board in the living room just to the right of the mantel. It was not obvious, but the light came in sideways and lit the edge of the plank, and something in me said, "Look." I slid my fingers under the lip and pried, careful and slow. Behind it was a shallow space, the kind of space a child might call a secret. Inside lay a small velvet pouch, dusty as moth wings. I sat cross-legged on the floor, my heart loud in my ears, and I untied the knot. There was a single old coin and a folded 5-pound note, crisp and green as if it had been pressed in a book. I laughed, a surprised sound that bounced off bare walls. "Who left pounds in a Chicago wall?" I asked the quiet room. I knew the pound was British money, and I liked how it felt in my hand, foreign and familiar in the same breath, like the smell of a bakery on a street I did not yet know. The next morning I met my neighbor, Ben, at the fence. He is in his 40s, kind eyes, a golden retriever named Daisy, who leans her head on your knee like she has known you for years. "Welcome to the block," he said. "If you need a drill, I own 3. I told him about the porch and the loose door, and he told me about his hardware store on the corner and the time the Cubs made the whole street celebrate. He whistled, and Daisy sat like a small sun at his feet. There was an ease in him that put me at ease too. I am still learning how to accept help without feeling I owe a debt. Ben seems to understand this and offers things like air, like there is enough for everyone. Later that week, a man named Marcus came to check the furnace. He wore a gray cap and spoke in a steady, soft way. He tapped the gauge and said, "She's old, but she's got fight." I made coffee, and we stood over the open basement door, looking at the dark like sailors at a deep sea. I told him about the velvet pouch and the 5-pound note. Marcus smiled and said his grandmother was born in Europe and came to America with a single suitcase and a promise she kept folded in her coat. "People hide little luck in old houses," he said. "A coin near a hearth, a note behind a board. It's like a hello from long ago." He wiped his hands and refused the $50 I tried to hand him. "Buy a plant," he said. Every home needs a living thing that does not ask for much. When I was a girl, I thought a house would change me the way a new name changes a story. I thought I would wake one day in my own place and be a new person. The truth is smaller and kinder. A house does not change you all at once. It receives you. It gives you places to put your shoes and your fears. It asks you to notice where the light falls and where the paint chips. It lets you try again. That first week, I made a list in a spiral notebook. $180 for paint, $45 for a thrifted lamp, $22 for a used kettle, $12 for hooks by the door. I wrote in a slow hand so I would not forget that each line was not only a cost. Each line was also a step. On Saturday, there was an estate sale farther down Maple Street. The flyer had been tucked under my door during a storm, the paper damp at the edges. I am not a person who buys a lot of old things, but I like stories, and old things hold stories the way shells hold the ocean. The house belonged to a woman named Evelyn Hart. Her daughter, Anna, stood at the porch with a box for small bills. People moved through the rooms in soft shoes and picked up what they wanted. I found a wooden box of postcards in the study. One card was from New York, one from Denver, one from Boston. The last card showed a ship cutting across a gray sea and said, "To America at last." On the back, in neat script, there was a note, "Keep £1 by the hearth for luck." I felt a small pull in my chest, the way you feel when a story turns and you know it will touch your life. I paid $3 and put the card in my bag. Back home, I set the £5 note beside the postcard on the mantel. I did not know yet what thread tied them, only that I could feel it, thin and bright. I thought about Europe as a word that had always felt far away, and about America as a word that felt like the ground under my feet. I thought about Evelyn Hart and Anna and about my mother, who worked 2 jobs and kept $10 hidden in a book in case we ever needed bus fare. I thought about how women pass small, sturdy things to one another, recipes, phone numbers, the names of honest plumbers, a quiet hand on a shoulder, a £5 note folded into a wall. That night, I opened the window and let the lake wind slide into the room. The house still made new sounds, radiators ticking, the tree brushing the siding like a polite visitor, the far-off whistle of a train, but the sounds already felt less like questions and more like a language I could learn. I took a pen and wrote my name on a card and slid it into the slot in the mailbox. Claire Reed. I put the postcard of the ship next to it, just for a moment, and I told the quiet street the truth I had carried for so long. I want a small, good life. Not a perfect one. Not a loud one. A life where the door opens and the light comes in, and I know which floorboard creaks and why. Before I went to bed, I counted what I had spent that week and what I had saved. The numbers did not sing, but they did not scare me. I set aside $24 for the plant Marcus had asked me to buy. I picked up the velvet pouch again and held the coin in the £5 note, and I felt, for the first time in years, that luck might be real, but not the kind that drops from a bright sky like a prize. The kind you build with your own hands. The kind that hides in walls and waits for you to notice. I turned off the light, and the blueberry door kept the night outside, and the house held my breath, and I slept. I woke to the maple brushing the siding and the scent of new paint, and I told the house morning like it could answer. After work at the library, I stopped at Ben's hardware store for wall anchors and a tape measure. He gave me a neighbor discount, $6 off, and Daisy leaned against my knees as if I belonged here. Back home, I hung the ship postcard near the mantel and tucked the £5 note behind the frame. It felt like a bridge between Europe and America, a thread from another life to this one. Marcus came by to look at the loose porch rail. We measured, argued kindly over level, and found the studs like treasure. "You're building your luck," he said. I brewed coffee and set out $3 cookies. He told me about Milwaukee jobs, and I told him about saving dollar bills in a jar until the numbers turned into keys. When he left, he refused $40 and asked me to keep the money for the plant I had promised. So I walked to a corner shop and chose a pot hose for $24. I named her Hope and set her on the kitchen window. That night, Maria and Daniel brought pizza and folding chairs. We ate on the porch under a string of lights Ben insisted I take for $10. I told them about the velvet pouch and the estate sale, and about Anna's careful smile. We planned to visit her on Saturday with a pie and a question about the postcard. When the wind lifted, fence creaked, and the leaves clapped. I listened to the house settle and felt my face go cool, not with fear but with certainty. This street is rooting for me, and I am staying. I walked down Maple Street with Maria on Saturday, carrying a warm pie in a foil pan and the postcard in my bag. The air in Chicago was cool and bright, and the leaves along the curb looked like scattered pennies. At the Hart House, the porch steps creaked, and a small bell on the door rang when we entered. People were still wandering through rooms, counting out dollars for teacups and small frames. Anna stood by a card table with a cash box and a notebook. She wore a neat blue sweater and a careful smile, the kind you put on when you are trying to be brave. I set the pie down and told her my name again, and she said, "Thank you, Claire," in a voice that matched the sweater, steady but soft. We followed her into the study, where the light came low through a tall window and turned dust into gold. I took the ship postcard from my bag and placed it on the desk. "I found this here last week," I said. "I think it belongs to your family." Anna touched the edge of the card with her finger. "My grandmother came to America a long time ago," she said. She told us stories about the crossing and the small things they kept near them. Bread, a photo, a coin. I told her about the velvet pouch in my house, the single old coin, and the folded 5-pound note tucked behind the loose board. When I set the 5-pound note beside the postcard, her face went white. She drew in a breath like a thread breaking and whispered, "I thought that story was only a story." Maria and I stood very still. In the quiet, a clock in the hall ticked like a small hammer. Anna pressed her hand to her mouth, then lowered it and laughed once with a sound that was almost a sob. "My grandmother said she hid a pound near a hearth in a friend's house when they first reached Chicago," she said. "She called it good luck from Europe for a new life in America. We never knew which house it was. We thought it was lost." She looked up at me. "May I see where you found it?" We walked back to my blue house, 3 women in step, the city moving around us with an easy hum. Ben waved from his yard, Daisy trotting after a ball that cost, he told us once, $8 and brought back every day like a gift. Inside, I slid the board by the mantel free and showed them the shallow space behind it. I placed the velvet pouch on the shelf and set the coin and the 5-pound note beside the ship card. Anna's eyes filled and cleared. "That coin is the same as the one in my mother's photo," she said. She kept the picture in a small frame that cost $2 at a market. The frame broke last year, but she would not throw it away. I asked Anna to take the note and the coin home, but she shook her head. "They found you," she said. "Let them bless your house the way they blessed ours." Maria wiped her hands on her jeans and said, "Then let's mark the spot." We measured a rectangle over the mantel, and I penciled a good place for a frame. Ben came by with his drill and refused the $40 I offered for his help. "Use it for a good dinner," he said. Marcus arrived with a level from a job in Milwaukee and sighted the line like a captain finding a calm channel. In minutes we had 2 small hooks, strong and even. I placed the postcard in a new $10 frame and slid the 5-pound note behind it, so the faint green showed like a ghost of the sea. We stood back. The afternoon light moved across the wall and found the glass. It flashed once, like a wink. I felt the room gather itself around us, as if the house could breathe. "I always thought luck was a thing you win," Maria said. "Maybe it's a thing you keep," Marcus nodded. "Maybe it's a thing you share." Ben whistled to Daisy, who came to lie at our feet and sighed like a very old soul who knows how days turn. Before Anna left, I wrote my number on an index card and tucked it into her pocket. She pressed $5 into my hand for the pie, and I pressed it back and said, "No, keep it." She smiled and said, "Then let me buy you coffee next time I'm near the library." We hugged in the doorway, the kind of hug that says we have met in the middle of a long story and we'll meet again. When the door closed, Maria looked at me and said, "You're not just fixing a house, Claire. You're finishing a circle." I looked at the frame over the mantel, at the ship cutting through gray water toward a bright coast, and I believed her. The next week, I learned the quiet math of a house. Morning by morning, I wrote numbers in my spiral notebook. $1,200 for the mortgage, $72 for the internet, $36 for nails and anchors, $24 for potting soil, $18 for picture wire. I added a fresh line for savings, $1.50 set aside in an envelope labeled porch, because Marcus said good wood and patience can make even a tired rail look new. I watered Hope on the kitchen sill and turned her pot, so the leaves faced the window like green hands asking the day for more. When the sunlight found the frame above the mantel and slid over the ship postcard and the faint shadow of the 5-pound note, the room felt like a small chapel. The good luck from Europe, the grit of America, the weight of women's hands. Each morning the glass flashed and told me to keep going. On Friday, Ben knocked with a paper bag and said, "Open it." Inside was a tangle of warm bulbs and thin wire string lights he swore he could sell for $10, but I think he just wanted me to have them. We looped them along the porch rail and stepped back, two people admiring a modest miracle. "You'll want a dimmer," he said, and when I reached for my wallet, he waved me off. "Rain check," he added, which sounded like kindness with a hardware accent. He stayed for lemonade, and we talked about Chicago winters and how the snow makes every street seem brief and holy. He told me Daisy once stole a $5 steak from a grill and then looked guilty for a week. We laughed, and the porch had that easy, shared glow that money can't buy, not even for $100. Saturday came bright and clear. Maria arrived with a pie and a guitar, Daniel with folding chairs, Marcus with a level and a small paper bag that turned out to be a dimmer switch after all. Anna texted to ask if she could bring coffee, and I said yes, and a little later she showed up with a cardboard carrier and a shy smile. We laid out plates and napkins that cost $6 at the corner store, and we ate slices of pie that tasted like a promise you can actually keep. When the wind picked up, the maple tapped the siding twice, like it knew the plan for the evening and approved. We told stories about the city, trains that run like silver snakes, the way Lake Michigan turns steel blue in November, the $2 hot chocolates you can still find if you know which bakery loves students. As dusk folded in, Marcus installed the dimmer with careful hands. Ben held the flashlight, Daniel read the instructions, Maria tuned a chord, and Anna watched the way a person watches the last minutes of a crossing. When Marcus turned the knob, the bulbs blushed to life, and the porch looked like a stage for ordinary joy. We carried the frame from the mantel to the doorway so the first glow could bless it, and I swear the ship on that postcard leaned toward the bright like it recognized the shore. "To America at last," I read aloud, and we all went quiet for a heartbeat. I thought of the women who walked before me, who folded small money into walls and into pockets and into jars, who kept homes alive for the price of light bulbs and patience, who measured courage in dollars and pounds and steps. After we ate, Maria sang a song she wrote about a blue door and a steady heart. Daisy curled under the table as if she had drafted the building plans herself. Ben told a story about scraping paint off his first house until his wrists ached, and Marcus told one about a furnace that kept breathing long after anyone thought it could. Anna spoke gently about Evelyn, how her mother saved $1 bills in a book of poems, how she would tilt a frame straight each morning like it was a compass. "I think she would like this house," Anna said. "I think she would say the luck did its work." I felt a warm ache and said, "Then I'll do mine." When the night thinned and everyone went home, I washed the plates and set the frame back above the mantel. I counted what I had spent: $14 on fruit and lemonade, $6 on napkins, $10 slipped into a tip jar at the bakery, $8 for bus fare, $3 for a thrifted vase that now held 2 daisies Ben insisted were on the house. The totals did not scare me. They looked like a map of small decisions pointing toward a larger life. I turned the dimmer down until the bulbs glowed like quiet stars, and I stood in the doorway and told the street what I knew now. A house is not only wood and bills, it is a circle of names. Maria, Daniel, Ben, Marcus, Anna, drawn firm around a woman who finally believes she belongs. I locked the blueberry door, breathed the clean scent of new paint, and said to the dark, "I am here. I am home. I can pay the price of light."